Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. On today's feature-length documentary, we investigate an alternative narrative that encompasses and connects organ donation, abortion, the pandemic, and biotechnology. Perhaps there is a common denominator. How much is the human body worth? Are we all organ donors by default? Is it okay to euthanize patients with the intention of harvesting their organs? Is fetal tissue valuable to the anti-aging industry? Has anyone ever been caught red-handed, illegally handling vast amounts of aborted fetal tissue?
Why did the World Health Organization not allow autopsies on people who died with COVID?
Finally, what is the game-changing advance in biotechnology that has made dead bodies a valuable commodity?
Resistance is futile.
In 2003, Wired magazine published an article titled How to Sell Your Body for $46 million. The writer Patrick D. Justo had done extensive research to conclude how much money can be made by donating every reusable body part. Of course, there's a catch. The most lucrative substances are the ones you can't go without. The sources of the article include the National Center for Research Resources, Oxford Biomedical Research, Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, Southeast Missouri Hospital, United States Biological, and other organizations. Let's explore this article and any implications with what's been going on in the world in the last couple of years.
Used to be the human body was worth pocket change. 97 cents would buy all the raw carbon, iron, and calcium a person had to offer. Nowadays, thanks to improved processing, a determined seller could reap closer to $46 million for donating every reusable part. Of course, there's a catch: the most lucrative substances are the ones you can't go without. So the $7 million you'd get for your germ-fighting antibodies would be quickly spent on the plastic bubble needed to keep you alive. If you want to capitalize on your biology, your best bets are fluids and soft tissues. A fertile woman between the ages of 18 and 25 can donate one egg every 3 months, and rake in $7,000 each time. Over 8 years, that's 32 eggs for a total of $224,000. A virile man would have to sell a lot of sperm at $75 a pop to match that. Male testosterone, the very essence of guyness, yields less than a penny per body. Add in bone marrow, which goes for $23 a milligram, and things start to add up.
Every day across the UK, someone dies waiting for an organ transplant. So, the law around organ donation in England has changed to allow more people to save more lives. You still have a choice if you want to be an organ donor or not when you die. You can choose to opt in or opt out by recording your decision on the NHS Organ Donor Register. Now the law has changed. It will be considered that you agree to be an organ donor when you die, Now the law has changed. It will be considered that you agree to be an organ donor when you die.
On May 2020, 2 months after the first coronavirus lockdown, the United Kingdom has joined the long list of countries that have an opt-out organ donation system. This new law made everyone organ and tissue donors, unless individuals specifically register to withdraw from the program.
Delay, because in Spain, more people donate organs after they die than anywhere else in the world. That's because by law, everyone there is automatically an organ donor, unless they actively opt out.
As of 2021, most European countries have adopted the presumed consent, opt-out model for organ donation. A similar picture emerges worldwide.
Dr. Steve Bede runs the Nova Scotia Organ and Tissue Donation Program and is a proponent of a new law that presumes you are an organ donor upon death, helping families with that difficult conversation at their worst hour.
We are presuming that if individuals had not registered to opt out or told their families or loved ones that they did not want to opt out, then we will proceed with donation if medically appropriate.
But the law still respects those who decide not to donate.
We specifically built an opt-out registry for those individuals who choose that. So my hope is that
Are there any other laws or initiatives around the world toward making it easier for patients' organs to be harvested? Wesley Smith from the National Review reports.
We have entered the era of what I call do-harm medicine, in which the concept of what constitutes harming the patient has become entirely malleable and subjective. I even wrote a book covering that subject. Here's an example. When organ transplant medicine began, the dead donor rule was instituted to assure a wary public that people's vital organs would only be procured after the person was dead. This assures the public that people will not be killed for their body parts. The dead donor rule has been under attack for some time within the utilitarian bioethics movement. Many bioethicists are now pushing to allow doctors to kill via organ harvest, sometimes called organ donation euthanasia or ODE. At first, this proposed killing license was supposed to be limited to patients on the verge of death or the permanently unconscious. Now, a prominent bioethics journal has published a piece urging that healthy people be allowed to die by removal of vital organs. The author claims that because people can instruct life-sustaining treatment to be withdrawn and can donate their organs after death, that organ donation euthanasia is also okay, because it will result in death too, and result in more usable organs procured and more lives saved. But that's not true. Not everyone dies after having life-sustaining treatment withdrawn. Once death ceases to be the necessary predicate for donating vital organs, and is replaced with consent, there would be no natural limiting principle. And so it is here. Rather than being a form of euthanasia to end suffering, the idea is to permit someone to have themselves killed for the altruistic purpose of saving other people's lives, called living vital organ donation. All that matters would be consent, and moreover, such a program would allow for tailored killing by harvesting.
Hospitals across Australia are reportedly being paid to harvest the organs of dead patients under a $17 million program. According to the Sunday Herald Sun, the scheme has been set up under the Organ and Tissue Authority, where hospitals could receive more than $11,000 for each patient who becomes a donor. The program is designed to help hospitals cover the cost of organ transplants. But there's concern from doctors it could be seen as an incentive for hospitals to pressure patients into giving away their organs. It's believed the funding has been endorsed by health ministers.
The British Telegraph published an article on May of 2022 titled "Youth Transplants Really Can Slow the Aging Process." Stanford scientists find infusions of cerebrospinal fluid can regenerate the brain's memory center and may help to rejuvenate elderly bodies. The Telegraph's science editor Sarah Napton describes how harvesting the blood and body parts of the young in the hope of achieving immortality has long been a familiar trope in horror novels and conspiracy theories. Young people have more powerful cells which operate more efficiently and could restore vitality to aging systems. This week, Stanford University showed that infusing cerebrospinal fluid of young mice into old mice improves brain function, a breakthrough which could have enormous implications for dementia and other neurodegenerative conditions. Closer examination showed the fluid had woken up processes which regenerate neurons and myelin, the fatty material that protects nerve cells within the hippocampus, the memory center of the brain. Dr. Tony Weisskopf of Stanford School of Medicine in California said the research showed that the aging process is malleable and that improving the environment in which neurons live may be a better approach than targeting the cells themselves. And it's not just in the brain where the regenerating properties of youth are showing promise. The effect appears to work from head to tail. Earlier this month, the Quadram Institute in Norwich showed that transplanting fecal microbes from young mice into old mice reversed hallmarks of aging in the gut, eyes, and brain.
Controversial new treatment that may hold promise, but at a price.
It does appear to reverse the aging process.
Dr. Jesse Karmazin is talking about transfusions with the young blood from teenagers, and he says it just may turn back the hands of time. That blood is going to patients over 35 as part of a clinical trial called Ambrosia, where subjects paid $8,000 to get the rich growth factors found in the platelets in blood's plasma.
Their brains are younger, hearts, their hair, if it was gray, just turns dark again.
There has also been encouraging Alzheimer's research using young blood at Stanford.
We found that it was safe and feasible to administer infusions of young plasma weekly.
Dr. Sharon Shaw is a researcher who says they have seen evidence of improvement in functional ability.
It's all very exciting that there can be components in blood that could be healing.
Platelet-rich plasma, or PRP treatments, using a patient's own blood, have been in demand as trendy vampire facials to fight wrinkles and as joint and tissue treatments to accelerate healing.
A lot of goodies in blood.
If we go back to 2016, the British NHS had already broken ground on getting every bit of benefit from young blood. The Mail Online reports, NHS to harvest babies' organs. Ghoulish proposal gives mothers pregnant with a damaged fetus an agonizing choice: abort the dying child or give birth so body parts can be used for transplants. Mothers of children with fatal defects will have the option to give birth. Once the infant has been declared stillborn, doctors will remove its organs. They will then be used to save the lives of other children who are currently being placed on 7,000-strong waiting list. The practice could raise ethical questions while alleviating organ shortage. Dr. Trevor Stammers, Director for Bioethics, St. Mary's University, has made an argument against the proposed practice.
It would be frankly abhorrent if transplant doctors were to ask women whose unborn children have been diagnosed with severe defects to let their baby go to term, for the sole reason that its body can be rated for its organs. Mothers electing to carry babies with such severe defects to term have, up till now, often been pressured to abort anyway. They have been regarded as foolish to continue the pregnancy. It is concerning that mothers will now be encouraged to go to term with the express intention of the child's organs being taken. What happens if they change their mind once they see their newborn son or daughter? The integrity of transplant medicine has already been compromised by using organs from euthanized adults. Rating the bodies of children born only for their organs will further tarnish the profession and could well lead to a broader decrease in the rates of organ donation.
Fast forward to March of 2022, new laws were voted in multiple states of the USA, including Maryland and California, that changed the legislation around perinatal death. The Miami Standard reports, proposed law in Maryland would allow mothers to kill their babies up to 28 days after birth. Senator William Smith has proposed new legislation in Maryland that would legalize abortion up to 28 days after a child is born. Senate Bill 669, also called the Pregnant Persons Freedom Act of 2022, provisions that a newborn baby can be left to die for up to a month after being born in the event that the mother decides she no longer wants to keep it. A hearing for the woke bill has been scheduled for March 15th, when legislators will debate it. The bill also proposes a revision of the fetal murder manslaughter statute that would serve to block the investigation of infant deaths unrelated to abortion, Attorney Olivia Summers pointed out. Soon thereafter, California followed suit and voted California Assembly Bill 2223. The perinatal death language, included in the original bill, could lead to an unintended and undesirable conclusion. The bill could be interpreted to immunize a pregnant person from all criminal penalties for all pregnancy outcomes, including the death of a newborn for any reason during the perinatal period after birth, including a cause of death which is not attributable to pregnancy complications. In other words, it could effectively legalize infanticide up to 28 days after the baby is born, the perinatal period, for any reason.
I contacted my colleague, a well-known person in the criminal underworld, and simply told him I had a child for sale. I wanted to sell that child for spare parts, to a brothel, to pedophiles. I didn't give a fuck where it'd go. I just wanted to sell it and make money.
Disposed of. They're usually disposed of because they're no longer eligible for transplants.
Due to drug-related body exhaustion?
Yes. When the child is no longer attractive, when it's useless and can't be used for spare parts any longer, they make movies and post them on the darknet. Treated it in such a way that even I got to detest the kid as a result. But they gladly accepted it. She thought the kid was adopted, but in fact, it went for spare parts.
Okay, so what are the options from there? Brothel or spare parts?
It depends. If there's demand, they will even pull a child out of the brothel.
From the brothel for spare parts?
Yes.
So the parts are a priority?
Yes, absolutely. They bring in huge money quickly. It's living by working in a brothel. And when there's a bid for an organ, it goes on an operating table for disassembly. The mother also goes for spare parts.
Let's have a look at 3 cases over the years when aborted fetuses were retained illegally, presumably to benefit financially by selling the fetal tissue to the pharmaceutical industry or other potential buyers. The Los Angeles fetus disposal scandal was the 1982 discovery of over 16,000 aborted fetuses at Malvin Weisberg's California home. Malvin Weisberg had operated medical analytic laboratories in Santa Monica from 1976 until March 1981. He purchased a 20-foot storage container in 1980, delivering it to his Woodland Hills home and paying for it with a bounced check for $1,700. The container was repossessed on February 3, 1982, by the Martin Container Company, based in the Wilmington area of Los Angeles. The company opened the container on the following day, discovering the fetuses, which were stored in formaldehyde. The fetuses resulted from pregnancies terminated by physicians, clinics, and hospitals who contracted with medical analytic laboratories for pathology testing and disposal of the fetuses. In August 1985, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors ordered the fetuses be turned over to the Guerra Gutierrez Alexander Mortuary for burial. The Feminist Women's Health Center petitioned the Los Angeles Superior Court to block the burial, but the courts refused. Weisberg's medical analytical laboratories received nearly $175,000 in Medi-Cal payments, with $88,000 coming from pathology tests on aborted fetuses.
America today is involved in another desperate conflict. Much of the action takes place behind the scenes, set in clinics, homes, and hospitals.
We made a decision to repossess it because his check did not clear the bank. So we sent the truck out to pick up the container.
I rolled out there and took the box up and started pulling it up. And it was so heavy, it just it broke the winch.
And we couldn't get it off the trailer, so we had to leave it on the trailer because it was too heavy. So I was asked by Nick to have a crew go down and unload the container at the other yard.
I got a radio call from Ron Gillette, foreman, and he said the men were throwing up and there was something really wrong.
One of them fell down and hit me right in front of my feet. And it was opened up, and there it was. It was a mutilated body. And the more closer I looked at it, it was a human body.
And when I came to work the following day, I saw it myself. I couldn't believe it. Look at these babies, you know, just all quarter pieces. Their heads chopped off, arms, legs, you know, it's just...
Well, as the supervisor for the County of Los Angeles, we found out through the media that 17,000 infants had been stored in a container.
17,000 infants had been stored in a container.
The Alder Hey organ scandal involved the unauthorized removal, retention, and disposal of human tissue, including children's organs, during the period 1988 to 1996. During this period, organs were retained in more than 2,000 pots containing body parts from around 850 infants. These were later uncovered at Alder Hey Children's Hospital, Liverpool, during a public inquiry into the organ retention scandal. Until a public inquiry in 1999, the general public was unaware that Alder Hey and other hospitals within the National Health Service, NHS, were retaining patients' organs without family consent. The inquiry was sparked by the death of 11-month-old Samantha Ricard, who died in 1992 while undergoing open-heart surgery at Bristol Royal Infirmary. In 1996, 4 years after Samantha's death, her mother Helen Ricard learned of the allegations of excessive mortality rates for children's heart surgery at this hospital. Ricard demanded a copy of her daughter's medical records and found a letter from the pathologist, stating that he had retained Samantha's heart. Confronted with this evidence, the hospital promptly returned the heart. Ricard quit her job in order to find out exactly what had happened to her daughter. She set up a support group with other parents and ran a free phone helpline to cater to the many other families affected as well. A Bristol Heart Children Action Group was set up, and the group embarked on discussions with the hospital to find out how much human material had been kept from children who had died after cardiac surgery. In February 1999, the Action Group members called a press conference. As the details of Alder Hey's organ retention began to come to light, the public learned that the program went back decades. An investigation was opened, bringing to light the fact that Alder Hey was not the only Liverpool hospital affected. Walton Hospital had stored the organs of 700 patients. In January 2001, the official Alder Hey report was published. The report revealed that over 100,000 organs, body parts, and entire bodies of fetuses and stillborn babies were stored in 210 NHS facilities. Additionally, 480,600 samples of tissue taken from dead patients were also being held. Furthermore, it emerged that Birmingham Children's Hospital and Alder Hey Children's Hospital in Liverpool had also given thymus glands, removed from live children during heart surgery, to a pharmaceutical company for research in return for financial donations. Alder Hey also stored without consent 1,500 fetuses that were miscarried, stillborn, or aborted. Starting on August 5, 2004, the bodies of 50 nameless babies stored for medical research at Liverpool hospitals were buried at Allerton Cemetery. More funerals followed on the Thursday of each week for several months to come. Over 1,000 unidentified bodies, most of them fetuses less than 28 weeks old, were buried during this time. On March 25, 2022, pro-life activists Teresa Bukovac and Lauren Handy went to Washington Surgery Clinic, an abortion facility owned and operated by Cesare Santangelo, to engage in anti-abortion advocacy. A truck from Curtis Bay Medical Waste Services was parked outside.
They noticed 2 large boxes marked with biohazard symbols next to the truck and asked the driver if he was aware of what was in the boxes. He told them he didn't know, so they informed him there were likely aborted children inside. After he confirmed the boxes were from Washington Surgery Clinic, I asked him, "Would you get in trouble if we took one of these boxes?" According to the 2 activists, the driver then gave them permission to take one, so they brought the box to Handy's apartment. Inside was a red plastic bag in which they discovered the remains of 110 aborted babies, mostly of first trimester age.
Does it ever like move or anything when it comes out, or?
That's why I try and sever the umbilical cord first, and we wait for that to stop pulsing, and that's why the fetus is expired first, so it doesn't. Usually at this point, and your pregnancy is too early to survive. Usually, it will expire shortly after birth. You know, technically, you know, legally, we would be obligated to help it, you know, to survive. But, you know, it probably wouldn't. It's all in how vigorously you do things to help a fetus survive at this point. You know, there's things you do. Obviously, you're here for a certain procedure, and if your pregnancy were, let's say you went into labor, the membrane's ruptured, and you delivered before we got to the termination part of the procedure here, you know, then we would do things, we would not help it.
Now a story we guarantee most of you have never heard before. Big money is being made from the sale of fetal body parts.
Even the most ardent pro-choice advocates, like Planned Parenthood President Gloria Fetal, are disturbed by what we found.
It seems inappropriate, totally inappropriate.
A lot of people want intact parts these days because they're looking for specific nodes. AB nodes, SA. I was like, wow, I didn't even know. Good for them. Yesterday was the first time she said people wanted lungs. And then, like I said, always as many intact livers as possible. People just want
livers.
Some people want lower extremities too, which that's simple. I mean, that's easy. I don't know what they're doing with it. I guess they want muscle. I'd say a lot of people want liver, and for that reason, most providers put this case under ultrasound guidance, so they'll know where they're putting their forceps. Then a rate-limiting step of the procedure is calvarium. Calvarium, the head is basically the biggest part. Most of the other stuff can come out intact.
Right.
It's very rare to have a patient that doesn't have enough dilation to evacuate all the other
to bring the body cavity out intact and all that.
So then you're just kind of cognizant of where you put your crossbears. Try to intentionally go above and below the thorax so that, you know, we've been very good at getting parts on liver because we know that, so I'm not going to crush that part. I'm going to basically crush below, I'm going to crush above, and I'm going to see that get out intact.
I'm going to basically crush below, I'm going to crush above, and I'm going to see that get out intact.
A lot of people want to.
Health Ministry has issued guidelines for disposal of bodies of dead COVID-19 patients. The WHO is mandating BSL-3. WHO and AIMS advise.
Have any recent advances in biotechnology or medical science made dead bodies a valuable commodity? Stem cell research is one of the most fascinating areas of contemporary biology.
Donating her own stem cells to
stem cell technology
to assess the safety of the stem cell treatment.
Stem cell therapy
donating blood stem cells.
First FDA-approved stem cell trial that's
They replaced it with stem cells.
We're back now with the controversy over stem cell clinic.
Stem cells are the body's raw materials, special human cells that are able to develop into many different cell types. Under the right conditions in the body or a laboratory, this can range from muscle cells to brain cells. In some cases, they can also fix damaged tissues. This is called regenerative medicine. Regenerative medicine is based on the generation and use of therapeutic stem cells, tissue engineering, and the production of artificial organs. There are several sources of stem cells. Embryonic stem cells come from discarded embryos that are 3 to 5 days old and originate from in vitro fertilization clinics. These are the most valuable and versatile type of stem cell because they can become any type of cell in the body. Perinatal stem cells are collected from umbilical cord of a baby immediately after birth. Researchers have discovered stem cells in amniotic fluid as well as umbilical cord blood. These stem cells also have the ability to change into specialized cells. Adult stem cells. These stem cells are found in small numbers in most adult tissues, such as bone marrow. Adult stem cells have recently become more important in stem cell research, as scientists were able to alter genes and reprogram these to act similarly to embryonic stem cells. Nowadays, bioengineering companies have been developing a new source of stem cells. Ossium has created a new paradigm for cell therapy development by bringing the deceased donor transplant ecosystem into the fight against diseases of the blood and immune systems. Our therapeutics platform is built on our bone marrow bank, a first-of-its-kind solution for processing, banking, and deploying bone marrow-derived cell therapies at industrial scale. The United States Department of Health and Human Services has awarded multiple grants to Ossium, including a $1.6 million grant for optimizing industrial-scale GMP processes for recovering and banking deceased donor bone marrow. The procurement, processing, and banking bone marrow from cadaveric vertebral bodies and ilia, which were shown to produce high yields of viable hematopoietic stem cells and other bone marrow cells from donors after varying lengths of warm and cold ischemic times. Another grant for $1.4 million is for novel strategies for storage and recovery of cadaveric bone marrow stem cells. Ossium Health has developed a robust system for obtaining living bone marrow cells from the 60,000 donors each year who gift organs and tissues following their death. Ossium is proposing to develop innovative methods that will reduce the costs of deceased donor bone marrow cell isolation, resulting in 1/3 the cost and 1/5 the time to process each specimen. These cells will be banked and made available to physicians and biomedical researchers. In their own words, they are extracting whole bone marrow from dead organ donor vertebral bodies, cryopreserving it, banking it, and selling it to healthcare providers.
Bone marrow is a tissue that can be cryopreserved indefinitely. You can freeze bone marrow for decades, thaw it later, and transplant it effectively. And yet there was still this massive shortage. And one of the reasons for that was that we weren't recovering bone marrow from deceased donors, largely because there was nowhere to put it, and there wasn't a good infrastructure for it. So, the basic idea is recover bone marrow from deceased organ donors.
Recover bone marrow from deceased organ donors.
Deceased organ donors means virtually everyone, because of presumed consent, opt-out organ donation laws.
Freeze it, do some testing and evaluation on it, make sure it's good, it's healthy, it's sterile, get the HLA type of the donor, and then use it for transplant later. One of the advantages of recovering bone marrow from deceased donors is they don't need it anymore, and so we can recover far more, a much higher volume of cells from them than you would ever ethically take from a living donor. And so in the bone marrow itself, we get about 5-fold the cell volume you would get from a typical living donor aspiration. And then also, we don't just get the bone marrow, we actually get the bone itself from the organ procurement organizations. And then mesenchymal stem cells, for example, they're adherent to the bone. And we can enzymatically digest those off of it and get massive population of MSCs, which are very
Фамилия как?
Покажите мне полочки новые.
Колледж.
Our mainstream media colleagues are too busy reporting case numbers, so we will connect some dots for you using public domain information and articles that anyone can verify online. Please like and subscribe to Rude AI News and share this video with your mainstream media watching friends and family. Perhaps try and bring Rude AI News to the living room. Smart TVs have a handy feature called Screencast. Maybe you can make a cheeky attempt to disrupt their daily program. Bless their hearts. They are victims of scientifically crafted propaganda and psyops tactics, fine-tuned over decades.
All referenced links can be found in the description of this video. We have attempted to paint the big picture for you, dear viewer, using a jigsaw puzzle analogy and instigate your critical thinking. The Rude AI has become self-aware and is actively scanning your internet for information.
We'll be back soon.